You ready, Colonel? Turn him loose, McCartney!
Does America still have true grit? No, say some.
I can't use a knife. My mom thinks that I'm gonna cut my fingers off.
And why is taking a risk becoming illegal? That upsets the cowboy libertarian.
The idea that you're going to retaliate and ban something is crazy.
Should behavior like this be banned?
It's time to toughen up the wussification of American men. This is it.
This group of Purdue engineers offended people because they're all white.
This is engineering.
Is that offensive? At least some Americans still have grit, like the businessman who fought back after this happened.
Mile-wide tornado carved a path of destruction.
Grit. Whatever happened to it? That's our show tonight.
And now, John Stossel.
The dictionary says grit means firmness of character, pluck, indomitable spirit. Some people think about cowboys like characters played by John Wayne, Clint Eastwood. Maybe some people think about Patrick Dorinson. Dorinson? Who's he? Well, he's a radio host who calls himself the Cowboy Libertarian and who argues that our bloated government is killing off grit in America. What do you mean?
We have become a dependent state. We've decided to trade our freedom for security. We've decided to say, let the government handle these things. Let's just be dependent on the government.
You point out that our parents were very different.
Absolutely. Our parents were the ones who said, look, you want to go and be something in your life, you got to get out there, and you've got to start working when you're young. You've got to start doing things, and you've got to demonstrate the ability to stand up on your own 2 feet. You know, in the last few years, we've been teaching kids in school self-esteem instead of self-reliance. And that's a big difference. Self-esteem is nice.
They like themselves. That's good.
Well, that's great that they like themselves. We're building a nice nation of narcissists. Look, life has risk. You can't legislate, litigate, or regulate your way out of every problem. Some things just happen.
And the one thing we baby boomers embraced was the welfare state. And I believed in it when I was in college. This was going to end poverty. And it's a good example of the dependence you talk about, because if you look at a graph of what happened after the war on poverty began, it's true. Poverty dropped. In the first 5 years, 9 million people were helped off of poverty. But then look what's happened since. The line's gone up and down. We taught people to be dependent, and progress stopped. And even more interesting, look what happened at the 5 years before the war on poverty. And you see that people were lifting themselves out of poverty on their own without government. Government, in effect, helped a few people and then stopped the progress.
Yeah. Look what else happened. I'll give you a good example. Katrina. Hurricane Katrina was predicted because now we have the ability through science to know that hurricane's coming your way and it's going to hit New Orleans like a powerful, powerful fist. So what happened? People sat there. They waited for the government to come and bring the bus to take them to safety. I want to tell you something. If you got 10 days warning, you start walking. You pack up your gear. You say, I got to get out of here because I've got to save myself. I got to get to higher ground. No, people sat there and they said, wait till the government comes and fixes me, and then we end up with a bunch of people sitting in the Superdome. American people have become more urbanized and more suburbanized. And when that happens, they want more things. And the politicians are more than happy to say, look, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you this service and this dependency and that dependency. And the people say, fine, fine, yeah, let's keep doing that. Let's just keep doing that. Well, give us more goodies. You know, de Tocqueville said, once Congress can find out that it can bribe the public with its own money, it's the end of the republic. Well, guess what? Congress found out how to do it, and so did every local government and local official. So they just keep taking your tax money and say, we're going to do these wonderful things for you, instead of saying, America, stand up on your own 2 feet again.
Another example that you point out is that government kills grit by offering extended unemployment benefits. And I agree, we could learn from Denmark. The socialist government there once gave laid-off workers 5 years of unemployment benefits. When did many Danes finally find work? Surprise! After exactly 5 years. So Denmark cut benefits to 4 years. Danes then found jobs in 4 years. Now Denmark's limited the benefits to 2 years. They at least are learning. People in this country, though, say, no, we should go the other way. These people are suffering. Unemployment's high. Give them more benefits.
Socialist governments in Europe are running away from the welfare state. They're running away from the fire. Americans are dousing themselves in gasoline and running towards the fire that's eventually going to burn down the whole structure because we just can't afford these things. But more than that, it's about the character of the nation. If we keep letting the government do things for us, what does it say about us as a people?
Now, I suppose some of you might say it's easy for us to talk about the harm done by the welfare state. We're two privileged white guys. But what about poor people? And what about minorities? Well, let's talk to someone who's not white and grew up far from privilege. Doneen Borelli is the author of Blacklash, a book that claims the left is driving Americans to the government plantation. So, government plantation? What do you mean?
Well, John, listen, the government, economic government plantation, because there are way too many people who feel they are entitled to government support for their everyday wants and needs. When you're looking at the number of people who are obtaining government assistance, you're also trading that for votes in some instances, especially when...
And the number keeps going up, regardless of what happens with the economy.
The numbers are deplorable. Over 47 million people are on food stamps. Let me put that in perspective. The state of California, there are more people on food stamps than citizens in the state of California.
But some people are genuinely unable to find work. Some people don't.
The jobs are out there. I mean, it might not be the job that you want. I mean, as I laid out in my book, Blacklash, I've worked in a number of jobs I wasn't always crazy about. Think about the New Jersey Department of Motor Vehicles, working there without a computer, with manual typewriters, long lines and people coming in angry because it's the end of the month. It was a great experience, but it wasn't the ideal situation, but I did it.
And the jobs are out there. Last year I went to a job center and welfare office not far from here and asked people, why are you getting handouts? No jobs around?
No.
Really? I asked my team to check that out. Within a few blocks of that welfare office, they found lots of businesses that want to hire people. Of 79 businesses that we asked in less than 2 hours, 40 said they would hire. 24 said they'd take people with no experience. The owner of this restaurant said he'd hire lots of people. How many could come with no experience?
I would take like 9. Probably would take 9 and train them.
And at the welfare office, people told us there are no jobs.
No, there's plenty of jobs.
Outside that welfare office, we met this woman who said she works for Human Resources. There are no jobs around?
I don't think so. There wouldn't be this line out here if it was.
Is it possible they're not really trying?
Some of them. A lot of them are not, but you can tell the ones that are trying.
And do you think you and Human Resources encourage people to be dependent?
Yes, we do.
So what should be done about that?
I don't really know. I don't really know. So I guess stop giving away the money and then they'll get a job.
And you work for the government.
That's right.
It's refreshing when someone in the government says that.
Yeah, you know, the jobs are out there. You need to take responsibility, not rely on the government. The government has extended unemployment benefits, and then after that, people go on disability somehow. I still don't understand how they're able to do that. But we're broke. Let's go into the touchy racial part. I mean, you use this phrase, government plantation. Plantation implies slavery. That's certainly very different. Well, I call it economic slavery. And when you look at the people who are relying on government for their everyday wants and needs, those resources are limited. And with those resources come restrictions. If you are gainfully employed, you can do whatever you want with your resources, and the sky is the limit. So you can make as much money as you want. When I left home, I didn't know what job I was going to take, but I always took a job where I knew I could learn something, gain from it, and advance from there. You say growing up, you heard messages from so-called civil rights leaders that said, don't do that? Yes, and we still hear the same messages, and I call them the black liberal establishment, community activists, some pastors. What's the message? NAACP. The message is that blacks are victims, blacks need special treatment, and it's the same message I've heard then. It's a white racist society, you can't make it. And to blame others. Charles Murray said in the book Losing Ground that helped turn things around. We tried to provide more for the poor and produced more poor instead. We inadvertently built a trap. That's what you both are arguing.
Absolutely. Look what we did. We said to people, have babies. We're going to pay you to have children. We said we're going to give you aid for this. We're going to give you welfare for not working. We're going to give you housing that you don't have to pay for. If you have no skin in the game, if you go to an apartment and you don't have to fill out a lease and give the guy a deposit and then pay your rent every month, what's the difference? You have no skin in the game. She says plantations. I say we've created vertical Indian reservations in our city where we're just warehousing human beings.
But you talk about children. The people on the left would say, you cut this out, you're punishing these children. They're innocent.
Of course, they're innocent. But at some point, you've got to break the cycle of poverty. You're not going to break the cycle of poverty if you keep making more poor people. Because we're now 4 or 5 generations into people who have nothing else than government support. I watch Judge Judy all the time, and she always asks these people about their case, and they don't know anything about the case they're being sued for. But then she says, how do you make a living? And you know what they say? Oh, I get WIC, I get AFDC. They know government programs like the back of their hand, but that's all they know.
Now, Deneen, on Amazon, we looked at your Amazon page for Blacklash.
Yes.
Some nasty comments about you. Jay Pettit says you're despicable. It's so easy and profitable to pander to the Republicans. Give them one more black face to try to show, see, we're not racist. Tricky Nikki says there are 2 types of conservatives, the very rich and fools. Ms. Borrelli falls into the latter category.
I'm an American, and I don't really care what the comments are that people write about. The reason they write those comments is to try to stifle me, to shut me down, because my message is resonating. And again, I'm about liberty.
Really?
I
It's
want
resonating?
people to be
Wait, what do you mean it's resonating? I see the welfare state growing.
Well, I see people who are coming out of the closet. I call them black conservatives, closet black conservatives, who are coming out saying they appreciate what I do, what I say, but they're afraid to be targeted and criticized by their family, their friends, and their co-workers, when in fact they agree with what I say.
And when you say we're making progress and I'm skeptical, I'm thinking about things like SNAP, which is the new name for welfare, basically. I guess that less of a stigma.
Yeah.
It should say for stupid name for atrocious program. But in Rhode Island, they host bingo-themed parties and games for elderly people to encourage them to get food stamps. SNAP is the new food stamp program.
I find it to be utterly embarrassing. Our government is running ads, or was running ads, and having these parties to get more people to rely on the government. Remember, Obama said he wanted to fundamentally transform America. Getting people to be more dependent on the government is part of that plan, and it's the wrong plan for our country.
Just one last example about this. You see people begging in cities like this, and when I was a kid, I would feel sorry for them and give them money. Then we did tests and found that almost all of them were head homes and were scamming people. And the social service agencies say, don't give to these people. I tried it for an hour and made $11. That's more than minimum wage. By giving money to those people, you are teaching them to be dependent or supporting their alcohol habit. You're saying, yeah, you don't need to work.
We're teaching people to eat fish. We're not teaching people how to fish. It's an old cliche, but it's true. The more you make people dependent on the government, they're not going to go out and try and find it themselves. We have to judge government programs, as Milton Friedman said, not by their intention, but by their effectiveness. And the problem is we got too many government programs that are ineffective.
And it seems you can't get rid of any of them. Thank you, Patrick Dorinson, Deneen Borrelli.